Hello and welcome to Literary Clutter. Today I'll be speaking with best-selling fantasy author Trudi Canavan. Trudi, fantasy is a very popular genre. What's the attraction?
I think it's making the impossible seem possible. Quite often fantasy asks, what if? And the answer is really interesting to explore. In the case of my books, I wondered, what if magic was real and yet societies developed in much the same way they have in our history? How would politics and class and issues like that develop within a society that actually had magic?
There are those writers who really enjoy the writing process, the research, the crafting of words. And then there are those writers who find the whole process a bit of a struggle. Where do you fit in on that scale?
Probably closer to the first instance. I wouldn't say I'm so obsessed about research that I research over and over and spend a lot of time. I tend to buy or borrow a book and start reading and get ideas, and next thing I know the library's knocking on my door saying, can we please have the book back? But yeah, I really enjoy the writing process. I also enjoy having written, so maybe it's a tick for all the questions.
Are you a disciplined writer? Do you write to a daily schedule or only when the inspiration takes you?
I think once you start writing full time, you can't afford to only write when the inspiration takes you. I have days where it's really not working, and usually it's not worth forcing it, but most of the time, Monday to Friday, I churn out a couple of thousand words. Not as much as I used to be able to write. I used to be able to write 5,000 words a day, but I find that the more practiced I get, I write less words, but they need less work.
With 10 books under your belt now, do you find that you take it all in your stride? Or is there still a little bit of a thrill each time a new book comes out?
There's always a thrill when a new book is released. As soon as I get hold of the author copy, I'm all excited. And as soon as somebody spots it in the wild and reports it as a fan mail or on Twitter, I'm all excited. And as soon as I actually see it in the bookshop, I'm all excited. I never seem to lose that thrill.
Now that you've reached best-selling status, do you find that there is more pressure on you to continue to write bestsellers? And how do you cope with that?
There's a little bit of pressure, but mostly writing is not something you can necessarily force that stringently. I'm writing mostly to entertain myself, because I think if I'm bored, no one else is going to be entertained. So I just write what I hope is a really good book and entertains me, and I'm fortunate enough that other people seem to like them.
Do you ever write the traits and mannerisms of people you know into the characters in your books?
I always said I don't ever base characters on people I know, more character types. And I suppose sometimes the mannerisms might get in there, but I deliberately make sure I don't actually base them on people. The one time I actually named a character after a friend, that character turned evil on me and I had to apologise to her.
Gay characters tend not to feature all that often in mainstream fantasy. What inspired you to include gay characters in your books?
Mostly because I had always known gay people, and it just seemed unbalanced not to have a few characters in books who were gay. Initially with the Black Magician trilogy, the character who is gay in that, I knew he was gay, but I didn't write about it. But later, my agent told me when I submitted the trilogy to her that the second book was a bit thin on. So she suggested I show a bit of the rest of the world that this is based in. And I thought, if I'm going to have a character travelling, well, travelling can actually get a bit tedious. There's nothing like romance to spice it up. So that meant having an actual gay romance in the book. And I'm so glad I did. It was great fun to write.
There has been much debate about ebooks and how they're going to affect sales and publishers and booksellers and so forth. Your books are available as ebooks as well as traditional dead tree books. How do you see ebooks affecting you as a writer?
I'm not entirely sure, and I think you hear so many dystopian and utopian predictions of the future, and really we're not going to know until 5-10 years down the track how this is going to affect things. Probably the biggest problem with electronic books is piracy. It's just so much easier to pirate a book, and it's not really, people say, oh, we loan books to friends and borrow them from the library all the time, but it's more a matter of scale. You might loan a book to 20 friends, but you're not going to loan them to 2,000 or 20,000 or 100,000 friends, and that could actually make a huge impact on sales. But I think if that's fairly in control, and I mean, print books get stolen too, then it shouldn't make a huge difference, I think, to sales. In fact, it may encourage people to buy more books. It might not encourage them to read more books. I know I'm already inclined to buy more books as ebooks than actually read them because it's so much easier to store them. But I actually predict that people will get to the point where they'll stop and go, wait a sec, I've just bought 100 ebooks, there's no way I can actually read all that. I've just spent a lot of money I didn't have to. And the ebook sales will probably taper off a little at that point.